Praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai Bashem Akakadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, great millstone, and woman. Teach well. Peace, love, salutation to the elect. 144 first fruit. All right. So coming at you with a pretty swift lesson in the spirit. It's pretty much an update. So we all know this is pbsnews.org. So pretty much we all know what happened earlier in this year in January, mid to late January, with these shootings in Minneapolis, Minnesota. With ICE and, all this, whatever. So shooting deaths climb and Trump's mass deportation efforts. So we saw the videos of the wrestle that happened with that one white male, and then we saw the videos of that white female who was driving that SUV and what ended up ultimately happening to both of them. There was other shootings as well that were reported coming from these federal agents. So I'll just read this first part here. It says, outrage has grown nationwide over the violent and sometimes deadly tactics used by federal immigration officers in communities across the country. I did another lesson in the wake of these things here too, where I actually did a lesson on there is some communities in Minneapolis where the civilians would actually exercise their Second Amendment rights and bear arms and stand outside their communities protecting themselves from ICE. So they were outside in full gear, whatever they had, with their assault rifles and things of that nature. Now about a month or two pass, of course, legislation is being prepared in the wake of those things because they see, in a sense, civil unrest, and they see individuals are, starting to wake up and stand up for themselves. So this is where I'm doing this lesson. And then the Minnesota legislature. So this is actually something that's in the works. So there's an introduction of a bill that is trying to become state law in Minnesota. As you know, Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, correct me in the comments, is a Democratic state. So pretty much Democrats are against the Second Amendment, so the right to bear arms. Matter of fact, I'll pull up the Second Amendment so we can all be on the same page. Here's the Second Amendment. You go to the constitution.congress.gov. I always go here because this is going to give you the exact documentations. So there's no, you always want to get good source before, saying something. So Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia. So what you saw in Minneapolis was a well-regulated militia. Hold on. I can't spell, so just bear with me. Golly. All right. Yeah, you see this? See this stuff? Yep. Let's look at this real quick.
Oh, okay.
You see, they're outside with their ARs and whatever gear they have, protecting their community from ICE. So let me exit out that. I don't want to get copyrighted if that's the case. So they're forming a militia. Let's see what a militia is. A militia, a military force that is raised from the civil population to supplement a regular army in an emergency. That's exactly what the fuck was going on in Minneapolis. And that was just one instant. I actually did a lesson on another instant, a totally different group of people, but in the same area, Minneapolis. It says, being necessary to the security of a free state, to the security of a free state, because the quote-unquote free state that America is quote-unquote used to is actually being infringed upon. All right, they're actually infringing on your quote-unquote rights instead of the rights that are what they say God-given, these rights, the Second Amendment, are starting to become privileges. And I'm going to get to that in a second, what I mean by privilege. It says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And that's exactly what's going on in this legislation, the SF4290 in Minnesota. They have another law going on in Virginia right now, where I think it's actually passed. I have to look that up. But they have an assault weapon ban in Virginia, and also an ammunition ban in Virginia, like a mag capacity ban in Virginia as well. So pretty much you can't own anything that has, 10 rounds or more. When I say rounds, it means bullets inside of your magazine, or like black people like to say, your clip. All right. So the bill for an act that says relating to public safety, banning possession of semi-automatic military-style assault weapons and large-capacity ammunition magazines, providing for criminal penalties, amending Minnesota's statutes of 2024, section 609.66. I'm not about to read all that other fucking shit. So Article 1, the prohibition of the possession of certain firearms. They say certain firearms. This is pretty much everything that you know to be a firearm. Okay, and it goes down to list any of the following firearms. All right, AK-47s, AR-15s of any type. All right, and you just continue to go down the list. All right. Now, there's a point that I want to get to, because I kind of skimmed and read through all of this, but I want to get to section 5.2 or 5.22. Let me see. Yeah, 5.21. It says a person described in the a person described in the paragraph must. So we're going to read these right here. All right, but before we read that, we're going to play this guy.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Strasser, chairman of the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, and this morning we had a new gun control bill drop. That is Senate File 4290, which is a new take on the ban on semi-automatic rifles and magazines holding more than 10 rounds. This time it is from Senator Dr. Matt Klein, as he likes to make sure that you know he's an MD. This bill, similar to the other bans, is a total ban on possession of magazines and rifles unless you go and get a certificate from your police department that allows you to keep these firearms. In doing so, you have to allow the police to inspect your home without a warrant. You can't carry your magazines anymore holding more than 10 rounds. You can only possess these firearms and magazines at your home, on property you own or control, or at a licensed firing range, whatever that is, because there is no such thing in Minnesota law. And Dr. Klein, of course, will put you in prison for up to 5 years if you violate his gun control law. He exempts the police, federal agents, and government officials, including himself, I would take by that guess. Dr. Klein's running for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District, so if you're in CD2, now you know someone you can vote against. But anyway, the new bill is up. There's no hearings scheduled yet. Learn more at gunowners.mn/tracker and see what's moving at gunowners.mn/2026. Thanks for your support. Keep an eye on our page for the next.
All right, that's great. So you heard what he said. So pretty much we're going to go back to here. It says safely, a person described in the paragraph must. This really stood out to me, and it's kind of what he mentioned there. And of course, let's read this. It says safely and securely store the device pursuant to the regulation adopted by the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. It says agree to allow the appropriate law enforcement agency to inspect the storage of the device to ensure compliance of the subdivision. So let's read up here. It says current owners certification of ownership of semi-automatic military-style weapons. A person who legally owned or possessed a semi-automatic military assault weapon before August 1st, 2026, and who desires to maintain lawful ownership or possession of the device must request certification of ownership of the device from the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and appropriate law enforcement agency. So what the fuck they're pretty much saying here is if you own a weapon in Minnesota, the state of Minnesota, if you own a weapon and you have legally owned a weapon before August 1st, 2026, you have to go get a fucking permission slip from your local law enforcement agency. We know what permission slips are. They're something that's temporary that can be taken away at any time. And when you read down here, you are to renew that certificate of ownership every 3 years. So anytime you want to go back and renew that, they have the right to decline that. All right, they have the right to decline that. Now, one second. Give me 1 second. All right, so here's the next thing. Give me 1 moment. All right, so here's one thing I want to point out. So they say a semi-automatic military assault weapon. All right, that word shouldn't be in there, okay? Because there's no civilian that owns an assault weapon legally. Assault weapons are military use, okay? Meaning they have three lever positions, meaning you have safe, semi, and full auto. No civilian has full auto capability. All right, that is illegal. All right, the only thing they have correct is semi-automatic military style, which in a sense too, military style. That's just them playing on words. It's just simply an AR, and beyond popular belief, the word AR doesn't mean what people think it means. AR means Armalite rifle, because Armalite is pretty much the company that designed the AR-15. Armalite. Most people think it's assault rifle, and it's not. And the 15 comes from the real full name of AR-15 is Armalite Rifle Model 15. Okay. That's neither here or there, but I just have to give you that information just for the sake of this particular lesson. And I'm going to get to a particular precept that kind of, reminded me of all of this. So pretty much what this is saying in a whole, the SF4290 is before this even came, you bought a firearm, and you went through the process of buying a firearm. You did you did your fingerprint, did a background scan, or you went out and got a concealed carry permit, and you had to do a background and fingerprint and all that shit for that as well. You had to prove that you didn't have any criminal records and things of that nature. You went through the legal process. And if you wanted to have a SBR, which means a short barrel rifle, you went through the legal process of that. You probably paid a tax to get a tax stamp to get that legal with the ATF, which the ATF stands for alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. All right, so you had to go through that. And now they're pushing this. So you already went through all the legal processes, and now you have to go get a certificate from your law enforcement to even own your gun. So pretty much what they're saying is, if you want to keep your firearm, you have to give up your Fourth Amendment right, because you remember when he said this, he said that they can go into your house without a warrant and inspect your rifle. That's you giving up your Fourth Amendment right. So you can exercise your Second Amendment only if you give up your Fourth. You know what that is called? That is called the government leveraging one constitutional right to strip you of another. And that goes to show you that you Americans, you really don't have rights. And you really never did. They were always going to be infringed upon. According to the NWO that Esau is trying to push, the Constitution doesn't fucking matter. We need you to understand it. Well, I don't care if you understand it or not. I'm just putting it out there. And what this is going to do ultimately is it's going to entice people to react, okay? That's why they're trying to de-arm the population. All right, what's happening over in Iran is going to excite certain type of actions amongst the civilian population over here in America, which I'm probably going to do another lesson to expound on what I mean on that. Okay, this is what I mean um, of a free state. Okay, that's being attacked. Your free state is being attacked. So this is Daniel chapter 6:1. It says it pleased Darius to um, set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom, and over these three presidents, of whom Daniel was first, that the princes might give accounts unto them, and the king shall have no damage. It says, verse 3 says, then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes because an excellent spirit was in him. And the king thought to set him over the whole realm. I'm going to get to my point. It says, then the presidents and the princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none occasion nor fault, for as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his power. Then these presidents and princes assembled together, so pretty much they're saying, let's make him go off. So then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king and said, thus unto him, King Darius, live forever. Getting to the point now, verse 7, it says, all the presidents of the kingdom and the governors and the princes and the counselors and the captains and have consulted together to establish a royal statute, which is pretty much a law, to make a firm decree, okay, which, here's the word decree, an official order issued by a legal authority. Who are the legal authorities in this particular account? The governors, the princes, the counselors, and the captains. They consulted together. What they did was a Psalm 83, all right? And they made a firm decree, all right? That whatsoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save thee, O king, he shall be cast into the lion's den. So pretty much you have to praise the king and no other power. It says, now, O king, establish the decree. So make it firm, make it thus. And sign the writing that it be not changed according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which altereth not. Wherefore King Darius signed the writing in the decree. That's exactly what went down here. On a very low scale, because this was not really on a low scale, because this could turn into, because you get 5 years in prison if you don't comply to this once it becomes law. You know, you get thrown in a den for not complying to this. But the right was already established in the Bill of Rights, in your Second Amendment. But now they're going against it in the state of Minnesota. They're going against it in the state of California. They're going against it in the state of Virginia. And this is going to be a ripple effect. Like I said, they're just leveraging one right, constitutional right, to strip you of another, which is your Fourth Amendment right, okay, when you read this law. All right, technically this is unconstitutional, but who cares, right? Who cares? They can do what they want, and they're doing what they want. And I'm talking about the Edomites. They're doing what they want because it's all an agenda. It's all an agenda. They do not want the people to hold and bear arms. They don't want people to fight back. All right, they want full control. So that's about all I had, and that's the same thing that was happening. That's why I pulled this out. They want full control over everything and everybody. So they come out with these laws and statutes and decrees out of the thin blue air, and make it so, and you have to follow it. So one amendment is going to trickle down to the next, to where everybody is not going to have. Because if you're attacking this, what's next? You're going to attack freedom of speech, freedom of religion. You know, you're going to attack your right to a speedy trial. Man, go read the goddamn Constitution, man. Go see all the rights that you quote unquote have to exercise if you are an American. All of those are being infringed on. And it's really starting with the Second Amendment. It's going to trickle down to everything else. So, Lord willing, that was edifying. I want to give all glory, honor, praises to Yahweh, Bashim, Yahweh Shai, Bashim, Achakodash. Double honor to the apostles, elders, the great millstone, the rule, and teach well. Peace of salutation to the elect 144 first fruit. Until the next time, I say shalom. And like always, repent. For Yahweh Shai is coming back sooner than what me and you believe. All right, shalom.